Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video, and in today's video I will be ranking and showcasing every single accessory in Blox Fruits. There are so many different types of accessories. Some of them give you extra health while the other give you guys extra damage, which in the end helps you guys become a better player in Blox Fruits. So yes, in this video I will be ranking all of the accessories and also will be showcasing what they do in the game. So with that being said, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and let's get right into the video. Starting off, we have the accessories from the first C. First of all, we have the pink coat, and I will be ranking this in the usable tier. This accessory gives you guys 10% extra damage and also 200 health. As you guys know, this is from the first C, so the extra health is actually very useful. So for that reason, it is usable because of the extra health, but nothing more. Next, we have the black cape, and I will be ranking this just above the pink coat. As you guys can see the buffs, it gives you 100 health, 100 energy and also 5% all damage. And especially in the first C, this is actually quite a good accessory. So yes, it will be staying in the usable tier. Moving on into the coat, and unfortunately this one will be going in the bad tier. This accessory gives you plus 200 energy and also plus 10% melee damage. And as for the beginners in Blox Fruits, everybody uses a devil fruit, so the extra damage is basically useless and the energy is not really that special as well. So yeah, that is the first accessory in the bad tier. Next, we have the cool shades, and I'm actually going to be ranking this in the good tier. Look at all those buffs. This gives you 7.5% extra damage, 17.5% movement speed, 100 energy and 100 health. Pretty decent for the first C in my opinion. Moving on into the marine cap, I will be ranking this just above the cool shades. It is actually quite a decent accessory. It gives you 7.5% extra sword and gun damage and also minus 10% sword and gun skill cooldown, which is actually quite useful. So if you guys are using swords and guns in the first and second C, you guys could use this accessory. Next, we have the swordsman hat, and unfortunately this one will be going in the bad tier. This accessory only gives you one buff, and that is extra sword damage. So for that reason, it's not really that useful. Moving on into the Tomo rings, this is another bad accessory. As you can see, it only gives you plus 10% Blox Fruit damage. So for that reason, it will be staying in the bad tier. Next, we have the Usopp's hat. This is definitely a usable accessory. As you can see, it gives you gun damage and also minus gun skill cooldown. So yeah, for that reason, this is definitely a usable accessory. Okay, now we are moving on into the second C accessories. Starting off with the black coat, this is definitely a usable accessory. It gives you extra damage, 200 energy and also 200 health, which is actually quite useful when you are in the second C. Next, we have the blue spiky coat. This will go in the good tier for me. It gives you 7.5% extra damage, 500 energy and 250 health, which is actually pretty good. So yeah, it's gonna be staying in the good tier. Next, we have the chopper, and this will definitely go in the good tier. Let me explain. As you guys can see the buffs, they are not really that special, but the minus 15% Blox Fruit skill cooldown buff is insane. It is very strong for devil fruit users, and especially if you guys are in the second C, this can be very helpful for you guys. Next, we have the ghoul mask, and this one will be going in the good tier as well. As you guys can see, it gives you plus 35% movement speed, 500 energy and also 10% leech, which is a very good buff. And if you have ghoul before, I would rank it in one of the best accessories for you, but for the average player, this is a good accessory. Next, we have the red spiky coat, and this is just as good as the blue spiky coat. It gives you 7.5% all damage, 250 energy and 500 health. Next, we have the top hat. This is also another pretty decent accessory. As you can see, it gives you minus 10% skill cooldown on everything. It is basically compatible with everything in the game, which makes it a super good accessory. And also, I think I should add another tier. If I don't, it will become very very confusing, so here is the new tier, the very good tier. Oh, and if you guys still haven't, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. It is completely free and helps the channel out a lot. Moving on into the warrior helmet, and this is actually a decent accessory and will be going in the good tier. As you guys can see, it gives you extra melee damage, extra sword damage, and also minus skill cooldown on both of them as well, which is definitely some very nice buffs. So yeah, let's move on into the swan glasses, and this is our first accessory in the very good tier. Look at all those buffs. It gives you 25% movement speed, 8% extra damage, minus 8% cooldown, 8% damage resistance, and also 250 health and energy. So that is definitely a very solid accessory. Next we have the zebra cap, and this is also quite a decent accessory. Gives you 10% sword damage, minus 15% skill cooldown on your blox fruits, 500 energy and 100 health. But yeah, it doesn't deserve to be in the very good or the best tier. Next we have the dark coat. It gives you 15% extra fruit damage, 600 health, and also 600 energy. So that's a very solid accessory and definitely can be very useful. Moving on into the third C accessories. Starting off, we have the bandana. Look at all of those different types of buffs. It gives you 80% movement speed, 10% melee sword and gun damage, and 750 energy, which is actually quite a balanced accessory. Moving on into the bear ears, this is probably one of the worst accessories in the third C. Look at the buffs. It gives you 10% damage resistance and 500 energy. Yeah, that's not really that good in this game. Next we have the golden sun hat. Look at the buffs. It gives you 10% all damage and 500 health. And just like I said about the bandana, this is actually an all-rounder accessory. You can use it with whatever you like. Next we have the hunter cape, and this is definitely a pretty strong accessory. I actually use this one as well. This gives you 80% movement speed, 750 health, 10% melee sword and gun damage. So if you guys are a sword main or if you guys are a gun main, this accessory can be very good for you guys. Next we have the jaw shield, and yeah, it's gonna be going in the good tier. I don't really like to use this. It gives you 50% movement speed, 12.5% melee damage, some melee damage resistance, and also 500 energy and 250 health. If you are trying to become the strongest, I'd rather use something else. Next we have the Lee accessory. This is actually quite an underrated accessory and will be going in the best tier. Look at this. It gives you plus 50% health regeneration. That is very good. If you guys have the Angel V4, this becomes very strong. Like, you guys can use that ability to heal yourself and also use this for the extra 50% health regen. That would be an insane combo and will definitely help you guys become a lot more stronger. Next we have the pilot's helmet, and this is actually quite a decent accessory. It gives you 130% movement speed, 10% health regen, 250 health and energy. Quite a decent accessory, but you can definitely find something better than this one. Moving on into the pretty helmet, which is actually not very pretty. Yeah, this is not a good accessory. It will be going in the usable tier. It gives you 50% movement speed, 12.5% melee damage, some melee damage resistance, and also 500 energy and 250 health. As you can see by the buffs, they are not really that special, and especially the melee damage, that's not very useful in PvP or for farming. So let's move on into the shark tooth necklace. This will be going in the very good tier for me. It gives you 50% movement speed, 10% dash distance, and also plus 25% sea event damage. That is very good if you are farming the new Leviathan boss or if you are farming the sea beasts, but other than that, it's not really that good, and for that reason I will be ranking it in the very good tier. Next we have the holy crown. This is also going in the good tier. Gives you extra 5% all damage, 5% damage resistance, 5% energy regeneration, 500 health, and 500 energy. Oh my god, such a big list. But yeah, Like, the buffs are not that game changing, and I would rather use something else, to be honest. Next we have the Musketeer hat. This will be going in the very good tier. As you guys can see by the buffs, this accessory is very good for sword and gun users, so definitely it deserves to be in the very good tier. Next we have the Pale Scarf, and this is definitely a big upgrade from the dark coat, and I will definitely rank it in the best tier. It gives you 15% Blox Fruit and sword damage, which is very high and very strong, plus 2 different instinct dodges, which is, you know, the observation haki, and also gives you such a big observation haki radius, which is very helpful for spotting people, and if you guys are bounty hunting, that actually can be very helpful for you guys. Next we have the Valkyrie helm. This is quite similar to the dark coat. It gives you 15% sword damage, 600 health and 600 energy. Next we have the Terror Jaw, and this is probably one of the best accessories for sword users. Gives you 10% sword damage, minus 10% skill cooldown, and also gives you defense against sea bosses, 200 energy and health. And especially if you are using a sword, this is definitely a very strong accessory for you. Next we have the Leviathan Crown. This is actually quite a hit or miss accessory. It's good for farming, but it's not really good for PvP, so I will be ranking it in the very good tier. It gives you a plus 12% melee damage, 35% sea event damage, 25% health regen, and also plus 40% material drop chance from sea events, and also an instinct dodge. And lastly we have the Leviathan Shield, and I'm not gonna lie, this is actually quite disappointing. It's not what you think. It's not a best tier accessory. Trust me, it's not a best tier accessory. So basically, as the name says, it is a shield, right? So it gives you defensive properties. You know what, let me move it up one more spot because of the plus 1000 health. But keep in mind, this is my opinion, and actually understand what I said. Oh, and lastly, here we have the accessories you can get from events. Starting off with the Elf hat, this is definitely a very good accessory and will be going in the very good tier. As you can see, it gives you 20% movement speed, extra melee and sword damage, and minus skill cooldown for both of them as well, which is pretty useful if you ask me. Then moving on into the Santa hat, it gives you 30% movement speed, 12.5% Blox Fruit and sword damage, 400 health and energy, which makes this definitely one of the strongest accessories in the game. Moving on into the Cupid coat, it gives you 12.5% sword and devil fruit damage, 8% damage resistance, and 600 health and 400 energy. Quite a strong accessory, and if you have this, you should definitely use this one. Next we have the Heart Shades, and definitely a best tier accessory as well. It gives you 12.5% melee damage, 12.5% gun damage, 5% damage resistance, 600 energy, and 400 health. It is decent and very good for gun users, but for the people who are using fruits and swords, I think they should use a different accessory. Moving on into the Holiday Cloak, don't get me wrong, it will be going in the very good tier, but yeah, it's not really the best. It gives you 10% melee damage, 10% fruit damage, and also plus 1 dodge, which is decent, but yeah, you can definitely get something better. Lastly, we have the Party Hat. This is definitely like one of the best accessories in the game. It gives you 10% extra XP and 400 energy and health, but the extra XP is very good for leveling up your weapons, your devil fruits, or just leveling up in general. A very strong and unique accessory. So yes, this is the final tier list, and to be honest, you have to find an accessory which suits you. For example, for some people the Pale Scarf would be the best, for some people the Hunter Cape would be the best, or for others maybe the Leviathan Shield or the Santa Hat would be the best. So please don't hate on the tier list, it basically depends upon your needs and whichever thing suits you the best, because that is how accessories work in Blox Fruits. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.